Jimmy here with One Road. Today we're going to talk about 3 things you can do right now to make sure your vehicle lasts forever. And depending on what you drive, forever might be like, I don't know, 90,000 miles. Luckily for me, I drive GM vehicles. So those are going to last all of, 92,000 miles. So I got you there. We're going to go through these things in reverse order, and that is so that you stick around to see the number 1 thing you can do to make sure your vehicle lasts forever. So don't go anywhere because you're going to want to see that. Okay, so let's get on with the boring one. Number three, park inside. And before you go and say, wow, that was anticlimactic, parking inside is something that a lot of people don't do, even if they can. And the reason is probably your garage is filled with so you're gonna have to get in that garage and take care of your mess. Or have a garage sale. Like, what are you doing? That $60,000 vehicle that you have sitting in the driveway in the sun and rain every day? Yeah, that paint, the plastics, and all that is just getting ruined. So box up your garbage that's sitting there blocking your entry to your garage. That way you can pull the truck or car into your garage and prolong its life, especially if you drive a dark colored vehicle. That sun is beating down on that paint. Let's not even talk about the plastics, the fender flares, even your headlight lenses, your taillight lenses. Those suckers are toast if you keep them out there too long. Yes, okay, you wash your vehicle regularly, but let me tell you, washing your vehicle is not enough. Number 1, every time you wash your vehicle, you absolutely introduce little tiny micro scratches onto your paint. And what if you could prolong the time in between each wash? And the way you do that is, well, yes, you guessed it, by parking your vehicle inside. This way, all the dust and pollen and debris from the trees around you doesn't land on the paint or the windshield. And you get to park your vehicle inside. It stays cooler. All the plastics, like I said, will stop from being corroded by the sun. And overall, you will make more money on your vehicle when it's time to go and sell that vehicle. Not only that, it'll be funner and better to drive because it'll just look better and feel better driving. So do you see what I mean? Parking inside is a big deal. Now, I do realize not everyone has a garage or even a carport. Carports work too. Not as well as a garage, but they still work. So what can you do if you don't have a garage or a carport? Well, there is something you can do. No, not getting a car cover. Those things are super ridiculous to handle. You're taking this dirty car cover off of your car every day. You're gonna breathe all that crap in. It's gonna make you sneeze and have allergies. Then you're putting that where? In your back of your car? So then your air conditioning is sitting there recirculating all that stuff? Okay, look, don't get a car cover if you can help it. Sometimes it's good to have one if you absolutely must. But one of the better things you can do if you don't have a garage or a carport is to alternate the way you park. So if you park front in all the time, you may want to rotate that and back into your parking space. If you park on one side of the street every day, maybe park on the other side of the street every other day. This will even out the weathering effects on your vehicle, whether it has to do with your paint or your plastics or any of that stuff. Just by parking on the other side of the road or backing in instead of pulling in every time, it's going to even out that weathering and make your vehicle's paint and everything last a lot longer. I would say you can at least do that. If you don't want to park in your garage or a carport, or you can't because you don't have one, at least do that. Okay, I'm sorry, I got a little worked up there. On to number 2, okay? Number 2 is good. It's even better than number 3. So number 2 is change your oil. I mean, what the heck, man? Just because your manufacturer says, oh, you don't need to change your oil every 10,000 miles, that's all. I would do it like at least double that. I would do it every 5,000, maybe 7,500, depending on how you drive and what your driving conditions are. But come on, at least do what the manufacturer says every 10,000 if it says it. The oil is the lifeblood of your vehicle. You have to have that stuff changed, man. Changing your oil regularly on time accomplishes more than just changing your oil. You're getting someone, if not yourself, to look at everything and make sure there's no major oil leaks. Make sure your oil level isn't too low or too high from the last time it was changed. You're also swapping out that oil filter, and by the way, you need to use at least what the manufacturer recommends for oil filters, if not a much better one. Oil filters have come a long way in these days. They have synthetic oil filters made of synthetic filter material that can capture down to like 20 microns. That is absolutely tiny. You need to use the best oil filter you can afford. But man, change the oil as well as the oil filter. And let's not forget to talk about the oil weight. If the cap on your oil fill port under the hood says 5W30, guess what type of oil you should use? Yeah, 5W30. Let's face it, even if you change your oil on time every time and always do everything right, there is the possibility that you could still have catastrophic failure. It just happens. Every once in a while, there's one of those engines that was maybe put together a little bit wrong, or one of the parts was made wrong. One of the components didn't have the correct compounds of metals and, it blows up. But the very best way to ensure against catastrophic failure is to make sure your engine oil is changed on time with the correct oil and a very good oil filter all the time. It's a very simple thing. It doesn't cost a whole lot. You can take it into someone to have it done. You can go to the dealership. I like to do it myself, but that's just me. Bottom line, get it changed. I got a little worked up on that one too, and again, I'm sorry, I won't do it again, I promise. But we are now on to number one. And number one is drive it like it's made of glass. Okay, look, we've all heard the saying, drive it like you stole it. But I'm here to say, drive it like it's made of glass. Now look, I understand that your car or truck might have 400, 500, even 700 horsepower. Okay, even though it has massive power ratings, this is a consumer vehicle, guys. And by the way, if you watch NASCAR, every time they race around that track for a few hundred miles, they pull that car back in, they rip that engine out of there, tear the whole entire thing apart, and rebuild it. Every time. And why is that? Those are massively high-end engines. Still though, they're being run at the very top of their power rating for hundreds of miles, just hundreds of miles. These engines will not last when we drive them like that. So if your big, heavy-duty diesel truck says you have 900 pound-feet of torque, don't drive it like that every day. It's a stoplight. We don't need to mash that gas pedal and see a gigantic plume of black smoke just so you can take off a little quicker than the guy next to you. That is going to not only hurt your engine over the long term, it's also going to kill your transmission. These consumer vehicles are simply not made to be run like that every day. We should always be driving them like they're made of glass. And every once in a while you want to put the pedal to the metal, go for it. But don't do it constantly all the time. You drive a Vet or a Stang and that thing's got like 500 horsepower, you can't race it all the time. It won't last, it just won't. So honestly, this kind of coincides with number two, which was change your oil. Because even though you change your oil all the time, you still can't drive it like a maniac. You just can't. I've said it multiple times already, but consumer vehicle, think about that, guys. These are mass-produced vehicles. Yes, and a lot of them might be made here in America, but these are mass-produced vehicles. If you want it to last like 1,000,000 miles, like we see some of these vehicles out there lasting, you're gonna have to drive it like it's made of glass. That is how these guys make these cars last that long. They're not out there flooring it everywhere they go. There's lots of moving parts with a vehicle. It's not just the engine we're worried about here. We have transmissions, we have brakes, we have alternators, we have air conditioning compressors, the rear end, all the bearings at all four corners. And let's not even get started with all the sensors. These things are completely computerized these days. Driving your vehicle like a race car every day is really going to tear it up quick. So I think the best thing that we can do to ensure against catastrophic failure is not only, like number two says, to change the oil, but to especially drive it like it's made of glass. That way you have that power there reserved for when you actually need it. You're towing, you're entering the freeway, you just want to play around for a few minutes, but they're certainly not made to be driven like that all the time. Just won't last. You'll blow a head gasket. Happens all the time. And a head gasket replacement is not cheap. You're talking in the thousands of dollars for a little tiny gasket. So to recap, number three was to park inside. And if you absolutely can't park inside, you don't have a garage or a carport, just alternate the way you park, which will spread the sun's effects to your car a little bit more evenly. and give some parts of it a break every other day or so. And it'll ultimately help your plastics, your taillights, your headlights, and the paint to just last longer. And that's what we're trying to do, is make our vehicles look as good and last as long as we can. Number 2 was to change your oil. And number 2 kind of plays with number 1 there, but changing your oil is so detrimentally important to your vehicle lasting a long time. Oil gets dirty immediately. That's why there's a filter there to filter out those impurities, the metal shavings that are coming off of your motor as it's being worn in. So if you change the oil as often as the manufacturer recommends or sooner, you can ensure that you're doing your absolute best to make sure that engine lasts as long as possible. Sometimes there's certain vehicles that kind of consume the oil as you drive them. And so even if you changed your oil just 3,000 miles ago and the manufacturer only recommends every 10,000, you never know if that oil level is a little lower than it should be or getting there. So looking at your oil, even checking that dipstick if you have one these days, is a good way to make sure you have enough oil in there. Even if you're going to wait the 10,000, at least check that dipstick. Maybe even there's a way through the computer in your car to check your oil level. I would definitely keep an eye on that all the time. And as I was saying, number 1 is drive it like it's made of glass. Now I'm going to be honest here. Number 2 and number 1 are interchangeable. What's the most important? Probably the oil. But in the case that someone doesn't change their oil regularly, how can you ensure against catastrophic failure? Well, driving it like it's made of glass. That is why I put that number 1. If you can't get to your oil change, if it's just been a long time and maybe you forgot when it was, drive your vehicle like it's made of glass. Default to that. Don't go out there flooring it and driving it like a race car. What if you're down a quart of oil and driving it like a race car? You're gonna be doing damage to the inside of your engine. Because if you're down a quart of oil, clearly it's been a while since the change has happened. So the remaining oil in your engine is going to be dirty and old. And therefore, it very possibly won't have the lubricating abilities that it did have when you first poured it in. At this point, it's old, it's burnt, and you're a quart low. Drive it like it's made of glass. And the bonus. Okay, the bonus. Let's get on to the bonus because I'm sweating in here. The bonus. Hug the curb. Hug the curb. When you go to a parking lot, it is hard to do. It is. To find that end spot right next to the little jetty of a curb there, it is so good to park in that end spot and to park as close to that curb as possible. Now, there is a caveat to that. Hugging the curb is not easy. You very easily could put some curb rash on your tires and rims. So you absolutely must know what you're doing before you go out trying to hug the curb with your vehicle. Why are we hugging the curb? Why are we parking as close to that curb as possible? Well, a lot of you have experienced it just like I have. Not everybody cares what happens when they swing their door wide open and they're parking right next to you. You want your vehicle to last as long as possible, to look as good as it can look throughout the lifetime of ownership. Door dings are a huge part of that. Door dings are such an eyesore. It is one of those things that is infuriating. You go to the grocery store not even thinking. You park in what seems like a good spot. And you go shopping and you come out and lo and behold, you go to stick your key in the door or hit the thing and open your door handle and boom, there's a big ding right there. Where did it come from? Well, clearly it came from the guy that was parked next to you. And why did it come from that guy? Well, because you were parked a little too close to him or he was parked a little close to you. So how can we combat that? Well, what I like to do is park as far away as possible. And if that can't happen, if I can find an end spot, even if it's close, I like to hug that curb. And that way I'm as far away from the next vehicle as I possibly can be. If I get a door ding even doing that, well, then there was nothing I can do about it. I did my best and that's all I could do. If some of you already do these things, maybe you do all of the above. Comment below and let me know. Let me know what your experience is with parking inside. What you do if you can't park inside to prolong the life of your paint. And changing your oil. Do you guys change your oil on time every time? Do you go over a little bit? Do you find that it's not that big of a deal? What is your opinion? I'd like to know, and so would everyone else. Comment below. And the number one, I know this is going to be a point of contention for some of you, but do you drive your vehicles like they're made of glass? Have you ever heard that saying before? Because I think I made it up, but maybe not. Or do you treat them like a race car everywhere you go? Let me know down in the comments below. Maybe I'm a hypochondriac. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe. I don't think so, but maybe. So down below in the comment section, give us the good stuff. Give us your opinions, your comments. We can all read them and kind of see what everyone else is doing out there. Let's keep it clean, guys. Please keep it clean. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different than what I normally do. So if you did like it, please hit that thumbs up. Let me know. And if by chance you're watching this and you're not a subscriber, the channel there is One Road. I'm Jimmy. Consider subscribing. That will do it for this one. I am Jimmy again for One Road, and I will see you in the next one.